We got a few listener questions this week, so I want to go ahead and do one today, and maybe we'll get to the rest of them next week. So thank you to Ron B for sending in a question this week, and we'll talk about it. He had a question about sequels, remakes, remasters, reboots. Mm-hmm. He wanted to know, first of all, if there is a game or a game series that we played when we were younger that hasn't gotten the reboot, remaster, sequel, remake, blah, blah, blah treatment that we feel it should. He gave a couple examples of something he'd like to see. He mentioned Fear Effect and the Dark Cloud games. Mm-hmm. And he said he'd be extremely happy if anything happened with them because he loved them. And he said he's always looking for, or hoping for, I should say, a new Silent Hill game that is actually good. So I got some good news for you, Ron. Dark Cloud did get remastered, both 1 and 2. You can actually buy those on your PlayStation 5 right now. Now, the remaster is a little wonky as far as the in-PlayStation 5 store, but if you go online to the PlayStation 4 store, if you can't find them on PS5, you should be able to find them, and then they'll show up in your own games on your PS5. So you can, right now, play Dark Cloud 1 and 2 in their remastered, up-resed HD glory.
Open your wallet.
Open your heart and your wallet and play those games. Fear Effect, not so much. They had that quasi-sequel Fear Effect Sedna, but I played it. It sucks. It's not as good as the original games. And as far as Silent Hill, good luck. Yeah. The original Team Silent. PT over and over. Right. The original Team Silent that made the first 4 games, and then they were already kind of split up by 4. There was only some of them still left. They're completely gone. There's no more Team Silent. So unless they have some kind of Beatles-style reunion, we're not getting another Silent Hill game. Now, you can follow, if you go back and look at the individual members of Team Silent, many of them have gone on to make other games, even horror games. The Siren series comes to mind. So you can actually look and probably find similar games that they have made that'll probably give you that Silent Hill fix. And then there are other games out there that are being made by indie developers, which if you're into horror games and you're not looking at the indie scene, you need to, because that's where the action's at. So good luck there. But let me turn it over to you, Derrick. Based on his question, what would be a series of games or a game that you'd want to see get the remaster treatment?
Okay, so I've got 2.
Okay.
And it will come as no surprise to anyone. They're both JRPGs.
Of course.
On the PS1. First, Legend of Dragoon. I need a remake. Not a remaster. A remake of this game. This is one of those games that, as a child, you saw the demo for available at Walmart and you'd play it and you're like, wow, this game looks great. This is awesome. But then you never actually got to buy it because you're a kid. You don't have any money. And then years later, I picked it up and I played it. I was like, oh, this is actually very intuitive. And the story looks great and the world looks amazing. Why has Square not done anything with this? I need a remake for it now. So now, moving on from that, a game that I actually have played through to its completion, Legend of Legaia on the PS1. Have you heard of it, Mike?
Yeah, I've heard of Legend of Legaia. Yeah.
Have you played it at all?
Not much, no. I play like little bits here and there, but it was a long time ago.
Okay, so to me, this is like one of those JRPGs of that era because they were just churning them out left and right. It flew way under the radar, I feel. It had the most intuitive battle system. It wasn't just turn-based, you pick an attack and you do it. You actually inputted up, down, left, right commands into a command bar. Mm-hmm. And then they would attack with, whichever arm or leg matched up with that command. And then you could actually input certain commands and unlock new moves or arts. So say I do right, down, right. You do the regular combo, and then if you've never done that combo before, it would do a special animate. Yes.
Yeah, no, yes. I have the sequel that was on PS2. Mm-hmm. It was made by the same developers that did Mr. Mosquito and Mad Maestro.
Yeah.
And they did the same system. And it looked like low budget and a little bit janky, but I really liked that game. I had a lot of fun with it. Dude, and they did the same battle system that you're describing. That's where my memory comes from it.
Yeah, I haven't played the second one, but the one on PS1 was just such a gem. So anyway, if you do the whole combo and you've never done it before, then they'll do like a special pose. They'll be like, "Ah!" And it'll be like new art.
Right.
And they'll do like a special move, like he'll do slash kick. He'll jump in the air and do a diagonal kick towards the enemy. And now that move is in your move repertoire. So now you can just do that move as many times as you want.
I am pretty sure. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm pretty sure it is a very similar system in Legend of Legaia. Like you're like everything you're saying is like showing up among the foggiest of memories I have from playing the sequel. But yeah, you said what the other characters?
Each character has like multiple moves that they can pull off, and as you play through the game, your command bar gets longer. You can input more intricate commands and longer chains. And then you can begin chaining arts together. So you can, and then you got mirage arts, which are basically their special moves. And then you get these special kind of monster things on your arms called Siryu, I believe they were. And these allow you to actually capture monsters that you fight. And then you can use them, you can summon them during battle.
Pokemon.
Exactly. And like as derivative as that seems, at the time it was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Summoning a monster that you just defeated. Like I remember this one, and I think the monster was called Aurora, but it would do this. Basically, it was a floating, like weird witch looking monster with kind of a circular bottom, and it would point its bottom towards the enemy and shoot this massive beam. And if it did enough damage to kill the enemy, then the enemy would literally disintegrate.
Wow.
But like in a pixelated PS1 style off the screen.
Yeah.
And I just remember loving that so much. I'm really giddy. I'm sorry, but I really want a remake of this game so bad. Go look up gameplay of it if you don't think that it's amazing as it is. Because I played it about 5 years ago on the PS1, and I still enjoyed it.
I was going to say, I should have put it on your classic. I'm pretty sure I have.
Oh, I think it is on there.
Yes, you can go back and play it right now if you want.
Oh, man.
I would add to your recommendation and say that we should have a remaster or a remake of Legend of Legaia 1 and 2. Legaia 2, Dual Saga, I should loan that to you to see if you would dig it. But that's on PS2, and that's my introduction to the series, and they just continued all of those mechanics, and I had a really good time with it. So
yeah. The story was really good, and just the environments, and it's just all really good. Really good, really good.
Awesome, man.
Classic fantasy stuff, if you're into that.
Right.
But yeah, what about you, man?
A series I think would do really well. You know how they're doing the 2D HD remakes lately?
Yeah.
Obviously, I want all the classic RPGs in those. You know, your Final Fantasy, like 1 through 6 or whatever. But what I would really like to see, because the stories are actually intricately tied together and they're pretty decent, I would love to see a remake of Phantasy Star 1 through 4 in the 2D HD style, where you can get the continuous story. Because there's apocalypses and resets, and the story from like 1 to 2, and then like kind of resetting the world in 3 when one of the worlds is destroyed and they have to build back up their civilization, and then back to 4 where they pretty much have built up society back to the technological level it was at in 2, but they talk about the events of 2 like they happened long ago and like all the technology and history they lost. I just think that's really interesting. Like the stories, especially in 2 and 4, they don't get enough credit for being as good as they are because they were presented in a rudimentary way just because of the limitations of the system. But they're actually pretty decent, and I think in the right hands, with some new writing and dialogue, but just the same beats as the original games, maybe with some improved gameplay, I think that would be a really cool remaster. Or they could do it Final Fantasy VII remake style and just make them full-on like action RPGs. That'd be dope too. That would just take longer, of course. Right. And I mean, if they don't elongate it the way that Square is doing Final Fantasy VII, they could literally do they could do a Phantasy Star remake saga, do all the games in sequence, and they would just play like chapters. I'd be down for that.
Yeah, I never played the Phantasy Star games, but you love them, so there's got to be something.
Well, Phantasy Star 2 was my introduction to the RPG genre. We talked about that a little while back, and I beat 1, 2, and 4. I got pretty far in 3, but I never actually beat 3. I actually had a really good time with them. I thought they were great games, especially for the time that they came out. So, yeah.
Well, I hope that answers your question, Ron B. I think we did pretty good.
Yeah. There's
now
definitely
I want those things.
I know. Now I want those things. There's definitely a lot of games that I think would be cool to get the remaster or remake treatment. We could talk about that. We could be a whole episode on that. So great question. Any of you listeners out there think of any additional games you want remade or you think would make good remasters? Let us know. We'll talk about it next episode.